Hi folks, this is your MWIS Planning Outlook taking you towards the weekend and beyond. Starting off with a look at the current situation, this is the pressure pattern through the 7-day period to next Monday, averaged out over 7 days, and the blue colours indicating lower than average pressure, so it is an ongoing story of being very unsettled. Some deep Atlantic lows moving through across the southern portions of Britain in particular, a strong jet stream over the Atlantic into northern Europe as well, indicated here by the closer lines on this chart. High pressure is away toward the north, that keeps feeding an easterly airflow around into Scotland, all circulating around these lows. This chart shows you the total rainfall situation over 5 days ahead, and again there's some more heavy and persistent rain in the forecast. Eastern Scotland once more picking up on the higher totals across the Highlands. Not the big values we saw in October, but some unwanted heavy rainfall to come on already saturated ground. The risk of some further flooding then in places. Western coastal mountains once more seeing the lowest values of all across the Highlands, but just look further south and some very high rainfall amounts expected across Wales. The greater risk here then of some considerable flooding developing through the next 4 or 5 days. A suggestion of a pattern change though as we head into the next 5-day spell through into next week, with western mountains overall showing the higher totals, with the wind flow more likely coming round as a west or northwesterly, allowing eastern regions to have more shelter and drier conditions here. Overall though, it still does look rather unsettled, with those rainfall amounts pretty high across many places. The temperature situation over the next 5 days looks like this, and we're pretty close to average or a little bit below the seasonal average for the start of November through this 5-day period. Not too much change to that overall pattern in the following 5 days, leaning a little bit below average for all, and Scotland particularly just feeling the coolest of all. Taking you through the freezing level story for the week ahead, and this chart starts with the middle of the day on a Wednesday, with the northern parts of Scotland seeing some cold air that will have been around from overnight, which means some snow will fall to quite moderate elevations across the hills and mountains early in the day as a front comes northwards. That will tend to lift though as temperatures rise, and only the highest mountains near to freezing later in the day. Not too much change in the days ahead, only the highest mountains in Scotland typically near freezing point. You're looking at a value between around 1,000 and 1,200 metres on Thursday. Even the highest tops in Wales might just be quite close to freezing point during Thursday daytime. By Friday, a little bit higher, 1,300, 1,400 metres, so just the very highest tops around Ben Nevis and the Cairngorms that may just be close to freezing point, otherwise you're above zero. Similar into Saturday, we're hovering in that similar sort of range, and not a great deal of change in the model through into Sunday either. 1 or 2 forecast model suggestions into the start of next week drag some chillier air around from the north. It may just mean the freezing level dips close to 1,000 metres at times, but I doubt that it goes anything much lower than that for the time being. So cool, chilly across the tops, near to freezing on the very highest summits, but nothing too dramatic on those charts just for the time being. Here's how the weather maps look for the days ahead. For Wednesday, there's that front pushing northwards across the Highlands as mentioned, with the snow turning to rain. Heavy showers follow from the southwest, some of those with the risk of hail and thunder locally near to western coasts from southwest Scotland into the Lake District and to West Wales as well. Easterly winds will be gale or severe gale force across the Highlands ahead of that frontal system, then quite a lull developing for a time, switching round southwesterly later in the day, and those southwesterlies very squally and powerful across Wales, could well be severe gale force with gusts over 70 miles per hour across the highest mountains in Wales for periods during Wednesday. The deep low which shows itself to the southwest then is Storm Ciarán, and that's going to move into southern Britain by Wednesday night. That deep centre of low pressure moves across the central parts of England and Wales on Thursday. The most powerful stormy winds around its southern flanks, but easterly winds across Scotland will still reach gale force across the higher mountains, and gales or severe gale force easterlies across the southern uplands, North Pennines and the Lake District, and gale force winds too circulating across Wales as well throughout Thursday. The wraparound of a front producing some extensive falls of rain, that increasingly filling in across eastern Scotland, becoming more persistent and heavier for the eastern Highlands as time goes on. Some sleet and snow on the very highest tops. Western coastal regions of Scotland staying broadly dry throughout the daytime, with some variable cloud and some bright spells coming through. Some heavy rain for the Cheviots, the eastern side of the Pennines, and across Wales for much of the day as well. The remnants of that system somewhere centred just over the North Sea by Friday. A bit of uncertainty exactly what the detail is by this stage, but expect a generally showery situation. Now, some of those showers could be more frequent and persistent in northeastern parts of Scotland, so around the Cairngorms could be a pretty wet day. More scattered showers further westwards, and again some western coastal regions in the Highlands staying often dry. Showers quite frequent for Irish Sea coastal regions, particularly across North Wales. The wind could still be pretty strong up to gale force across the higher tops and quite gusty and squally at times as showers come through. Our next centre of low pressure sweeps in from the southwest into Saturday, and again the track of this low is across the southern half of Britain with some heavy rain and gales, particularly around the Channel. Across Scotland, once more, it's an easterly wind flow that is expected. The wind speeds open to some question, but not as strong as further south. Could still touch gale force at times around some of the exposed higher mountain tops, with the risk of a scattering of showers coming in from the east and the northeast, drier again further toward the west. Uncertainty on the northward progress of the rain over northern England and Wales as well, that could be persistent and heavy for a good part of the daytime. By Sunday, low pressure is once more back over the North Sea, and we've just switched that wind flow more to a westerly pattern across Britain, with some showery rain coming in to western regions. This could be quite frequent and heavy at times, with drier conditions, brighter conditions further towards the east. And this maybe just opens that door then to that change of pattern type, with west or northwesterly winds prevailing into early next week. Low pressure is expected to circulate slowly over the North Sea then for a few days into next week, with a rather unsettled, changeable, showery mix across many places. Those showers with some hail and thunder perhaps locally near to some of the coasts in western and northern regions, and some sleet and snow on the highest mountain tops at times. Some brighter spells in there as well, some occasional sunshine, some quite clear conditions in some sheltered spots further toward the south and the east of major hill groups. So some better periods in there, but always be expecting the risk of some showers coming in at times. The wind flow circulating around then from the west by northwest, sometimes coming in a little bit more directly from the north, which could just lower that freezing level in northern Scotland. But overall, we're looking toward the Atlantic for the next incoming weather systems, and indications do favour that low pressure stays nearby and the potential for a more organised weather system like this in the later part of next week. The signal onwards into the middle of November keeps lower than average pressure nearby, which keeps things rather changeable again. Any ridges of high pressure looking quite short-lived, so one or two better days, but nothing really sustained in terms of dry and settled weather for the moment. Really then, we're a story of rain and showers, quite common. Temperatures still often on the cooler side, with the airflows circulating around from the northwest, so the higher mountains will stay quite close to freezing point. Tentative signals further ahead, we lose the blue colours, which may just mean we see some quieter spells into the second half of the month, more average pressure patterns indicated by the white colours on the model, which could still mean that we're in a mixed westerly regime, but maybe just not as unsettled, some drier days in there at times. The orange colours indicate zones of higher than average pressure, and there's a suggestion of that trying to build around Scandinavia. If it does so, we would maybe give us a chance for some colder patterns to emerge if the airflows came around eventually from the east or the northeast. That's a long way off, but there are some early hints that this first part of the upcoming winter season would lean towards colder weather patterns, so some scope for some wintry conditions as we head through the later part of the year. Things to watch then in the weeks ahead. As always, I'll leave you with that for today. Thanks for watching. Bye for now.